Good morning, folks. This is Mr. Dan coming to you from the Landscape Design Classroom, and today I'm going to introduce you to hydroponic crop production. So the main idea here is, what is hydroponics? How do we produce things using a hydroponic system, and what is a hydroponic system? So if you look on the right here, we have a hydroponic stacker, which is a vertical growing system. We actually use more of a horizontal system here with different piping and stuff. So we're going to talk about a few different ways you can do hydroponic growing today, exactly what we're doing. So hydroponics defined, it actually derives from the Greek words hydro and panos, which are for water and labor. The science of growing plants without soil by using different inert matter, and this could be anything from peat, vermiculite, rock wool, hydrogen stones. There's a lot of different stuff you can use here. And you can also use nutrients. So, and nutrient solutions, just like I was just saying, with all essential elements needed for normal growth and development. So basically, any plant that has a root system underneath that doesn't grow into the ground, like a carrot or onion, you can pretty much do with this type of system. So, and it can also be called nutriculture and or soilless culture. So hydroponic growing, it's been used commercially for years. Any herbaceous plant, vegetables such as lettuce, spinach, any of that good stuff, you can grow any of this stuff in there. So it can grow almost any herbaceous plant, normally used for high value food crops or horticultural plants. Common crops include lettuce, cucumbers, herbs. So as long as it's not getting into the ground like a carrot, you can pretty much grow it using hydroponics. So used indoors or in outdoor beds. Typically most hydroponic systems I've seen have been indoors, but in certain occasions and in certain climates, they will work outside well. I would not recommend that for outdoor use up here in Pennsylvania or anywhere in the Northeast. So if you look on the right, that's a photo of some lettuce in water culture with styrofoam, on a styrofoam raft. So you have your water flowing underneath, and you'll see some of your roots growing up in, and then you have your lettuce coming up. So controlled environment greenhouse uses beds, troughs, tanks, and bags. This is more what you'll learn in this class. More production control. Having a properly set environment for growth is of the utmost importance whenever you are doing hydroponic growing, because if it's even off slightly, then you're not going to get the crop you desire. So optimum, like I was just saying, optimum levels for light, temperature, humidity, and CO2. And nutrients pumped, drip irrigated, or misted around the roots in a nutrient solution. So we actually keep our nutrient solutions here in the back. We'll be looking at some of those before we get started in hydroponic growing. So three main methods: water culture, aggregate culture, and aeroponic culture. What we're going to do in here is a water culture. So if you take a look at the picture on the right, you can actually pick these up out of the trough, and you'll see the root systems growing below. So roots are immersed or bathed in continuous flow of nutrient solution, often uses beds or troughs within a greenhouse, and may need support for tops of plants. So for the top of the plant coming up, sometimes you can use a small stake in those, but it really is plant dependent on what kind of support it would need. Aggregate culture. So this is a solid media for anchorage and support. So some growing media include gravel, sand, perlite, hydrogen, stones, rock wool. So these are like a very solid object keeping some of these plants up. So on the right, you can see a picture of some hydrogen stones, and these are enclosed in beds, bags, or blocks. So you're still going to have your water solution going down through, except you're not going to be able to pick up as much. So your root systems will be very interesting growing down in there. A little bit more on aggregate culture. Nutrient solution is flooded or drip irrigated past the roots. So your roots are still grabbing on that, but it's kind of like sucking them up from below. And then may need plant support for taller crops. So you see some of these stakes coming out. These are going to be pulling up these. And then if you have something like a tomato growing or some other type of fruit plants, you may have some supports above that are actually holding those up. So whatever you can do to support your plants and make sure you're getting the right growth. You don't want some of these crops laying on the floor, or else you end up with like kind of like rotted looking fruits and vegetables. Aeroponic culture, plants held in place and suspended near a misting system, spraying nutrient solution onto the roots. So very little growing media, maximum oxygen exposure, and it takes less water. So take a look right here on the right, one of these vertical towers. That's actually getting the most air to that, most air to those plants. So it's typically more of a growing media, not so much just like a regular soil. So we'll be going over some of the different growing mediums in class here. It is definitely more expensive, and some possible problems is you end up with clogged nozzles and plant roots drying out. So one of the typical mistakes I've seen over the years is people trying to put regular soils into that. So advantages of hydroponics: high quality food crops in locations where in or out of season, they could not be grown in soil. So if you wanted to produce lettuce year round up here in Pennsylvania, hydroponics would be the way to go. Higher product quality, efficient use of scarce resources. Some of the nutrients and stuff can be pretty expensive. So, I mean, with our system alone, we continually recycle that water in and out. We put in nutrients as needed. Hydroponics is suited for non-arable lands such as beach sand beds in the Middle East, on submarines and in space. So you can have a hydroponic system pretty much anywhere. The picture on the right shows some lettuce being grown on the International Space Station. So winter greenhouse production in cold climates, higher crop yields from smaller areas, and a crop scheduled to meet seasonal demands. So even if you're going to Walmart to buy some different fruit and stuff, there's a high chance during the winter that it's actually being grown hydroponically. So more successful hydroponic situations, high quality vine ripened produce sold locally. If you're buying from a local farmer that grows through a hydroponic system, you're going to get a pretty high quality food. So especially when it comes to any variety of tomato. Fewer soil-borne insects and diseases. You're still going to get insects and disease, but hydroponic grown foods are typically not hit as hard. No need for crop rotation, and no need for cultivation or weeding. So you should never really be getting any weeds within your crops through hydroponic systems. You have to deal with that in regular crops in the greenhouse, but not here. And fewer pesticides are needed. Now, like I said, you are still going to end up with some insects and diseases from time to time, but you won't have to deal with it as much. So just make sure you're identifying those properly and dealing with those accordingly. More advantages of hydroponics: nutrient timing and quantities custom tailored for a crop specific needs. So you can actually set when chemicals are going to be released depending on the type of hydroponic system. Or if you need to set maybe a nutrient booster or maybe a certain type of fertilizer within that. So you can actually set when that happens and it will release into the system. More efficient use of water and fertilizers with less chance of water stress. Just make sure you're putting more water in as needed. You're just taking the time to do exactly what you need to do with your fertilizers, not adding too much in because that'll boost the growth up too much and kill it. Just be wary and always read your label on plants, chemicals, any of that good stuff. The disadvantages of hydroponics: the cost. There is usually a high initial investment, specialized equipment, and it's costly to operate and maintain. If you have a good electrical source for continually running that doesn't cost a lot, then you can be pretty well good to go. But if you have, depending on the system, there's going to be definitely some maintenance costs for it. So if you take a look here on the right with all these hoses are going to need cleaned out from time to time, even replaced. We even see some like rusting near the top. So there is definitely some cost that you have to be putting in over time, but most of that cost is up front. Some other disadvantages: management skill. It does require a highly trained grower and operator. So training in this class alone will get you so far, but you will want to work with somebody outside of here once you graduate the class, or even while you're in here, to learn the ins and outs of a hydroponic system. Hydroponic systems can be very tricky, and there is a lot of problems that you will have to troubleshoot over time. But if you're able to get pretty good at this, then it can be pretty lucrative for you. So close monitoring for plant nutrient and water stress. So continually pH testing, looking to see what nutrients are going in, and honestly, just reading directions of labels. I mean, this is it's a pretty big deal in making sure that your crops come out properly. And then sanitation requirements. Waterborne diseases can spread quickly. So if something gets in your water, it can spread right through an entire crop and kill it off. So you want to make sure that you're always aware of what's going into your water. So limiting visitors reduces the risk of introduced pathogens and insects. So wherever your system is, don't invite a lot of people to take a look at it, because you want to make sure the crop you're yielding is ready and good to go out the door. So that's all I have for you today. We're going to continue hydroponics into the next week, and we'll be getting a little bit more in depth. But if you have any questions, please give me a call down here in the landscape design classroom, and have a great day, folks.